Good morning, everyone. Tom Seiler here with Life, the Universe, and Bowling. This is our second podcast. Um, Hopefully, you enjoyed the first one, even though we ran a little bit long. This podcast is going to be called The Bowler's Bill of Rights. Everyone should have a Bill of Rights. Here in the United States, we have a Constitution, and the first 10 amendments in that Constitution are known as Bill of Rights. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. These give us as citizens the right to speak freely, possess weapons, protect us from the government, and outline some basic rules of court when things go wrong. That's the gist of the first 10 amendments. In short, it's a simple, basic set of rules that both the citizens, the consumer, and the government, the provider, know that keep interactions civil. Sounds fantastic. What's that got to do with bowling? The Bowler's Bill of Rights should outline what can be expected of the proprietor, the provider, the bowler, the consumer, the pro shop owner, that guy in the little room in the corner, and anyone else involved in creating the bowling environment. Snack bar operator, could be the UPS guy, could be the HVAC guy. Sometimes the air conditioning doesn't work that well, and we end up bowling in a really hot center and lanes hook. All of it comes into play. All of it has an effect on the bowling environment. So, why do I bring this up? Well, why is it in the first person? Simply put, if everyone understands everyone else's problems, motivations, and desires from the jump, from the get-go, from the start, then there's no misunderstanding. Why do I care what the pro shop operator is worried about? Why do I care about what the proprietor, the bowling center owner, is worried about? Because it directly affects your scores sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Let's talk about bowling equipment. Again, one of my favorite topics. If you're going to a pro shop to get a new bowling ball, so you can bowl a 300 game every game, what should the pro shop operator know about you to help achieve that? Just your name and phone number is enough so that they can call when your Super Rock 300 is ready, right? That's the stuff, the bare minimum that they need on the sheet, the drill sheet. I look around because I usually have drill sheets lying on my desk, but this is the one particular time that I don't, so I won't hold one up and show you that the name and phone number are the first things there. Do they need to know how you throw it, where you bowl? Are you righty, lefty, one-handed or two-handed, your average? What they don't know, they have to ask you. That's fair. That means you have to know what they need to know as well, right? Yeah. At a high level, you would need to know at a minimum when you walk into a pro shop operator to get a new bowling ball what your spans and pitches are. You may not know that. I wouldn't expect you to. So carry a ball in that has that information, right? Something that fits. It's very basic information about the spacing and angles of the holes in relation to each other. Spans are how far apart they are. Pitches are what angles the holes are drilled at in relation to the center of the ball. This is basic fit information that may be copied from another ball that fits you well, or it may be taken from your physiologic measurements. If someone walks in to me as a pro shop operator and says, I want a bowling ball I've never bowled before, I'm going to have to measure this. And there are things that I'm going to look at in their hand that are going to help me determine what angles to put those holes at, how far apart, how big to make the holes, etc. There's some of it that are empirical measurements and some of that is a little bit subjective. You have to look at the angles of their finger joints and the relative spans of their fingers, relative length of their fingers to each other. Usually established bowlers have this information already on an individualized drill sheet that your pro shop operator keeps on file for you and you only. It has your name at the top, it's your spans. They're not going to use your sheet to drill a ball for someone else because it's you. It's personalized to you. If you don't know this or don't have this available, plan on bringing a ball that fits you. Period. Full stop. Also, don't be afraid to talk about it if you have problems with sore hands, callus growth, release problems, etc. Okay, maybe you have a ball that you feel like fits you very, very well, but the last time you bowled, you were snagging in the thumb, or the time before that, you had to take out 3 pieces of tape, or maybe it rubs this part of your finger and you're building up a callus there. All of those things are pieces of information that your pro shop operator needs to know to help you fit the bowling ball to come off your hand consistently so that your scores can be better. It's wildly underdiscussed as a topic, and it does involve some trial and error. This is your fit, right? Nobody, no matter how great they are, is going to nail your fit the first time perfectly, unless you've already worked through all the trial and error and you bring in a ball that fits you exactly and you have no release problems and you love it and you want every ball to feel exactly like this one. In that case, a good pro shop operator is going to make the next bowling ball feel exactly like this one. It may not roll the same because it's a different ball, but it's going to feel the same. So the release part should be very, very consistent. Finally, it involves some trial and error to get to the perfect fit. I can tell you over the years, my fit has been so close to perfect a few times that I can't describe to you how good it feels to let go of a bowling ball, knowing exactly how it's going to come off your hand, exactly when it's going to come off your hand, and being able to make little tweaks at the bottom of your swing, knowing that your hand's not going to snag in it, not going to drop it. It's awesome. But your fit is not static. My bowling balls that fit my hand absolutely perfectly 25 years ago when I was bowling regularly on the regional tour and I was practicing 50 to 100 games a week. Yep, that's a realistic number for a period of time. What fit me then feels absolutely awful today because my hand isn't as strong as it used to be. And I'm older and my joints aren't as flexible as they used to be. And there's a lot of factors that go into what makes your fit change. So it's not static. It'll change over time, especially as you get older. Don't be afraid to mess with it. Don't be afraid to take an old ball that you don't throw anymore, plug it up and make experiments, but make educated guesses and informed changes. And that involves knowing a little bit about your game and talking to your pro shop operator about what you want to be different when you make a change. All that with spans and pitches. That's just fit. Some other things that you should know, at least your pro shop operator should know, and it'll help if you know it as well. Your speed. Simply put, this is the speed at which you deliver the ball to the lane. Most bowlers fall in the 15 to 17 mile per hour range, though some will be higher and some lower. While some bowlers can throw it harder, sometimes it's highly recommended that you stick to a single timing and delivery style in speed so that you can work on perfecting that. As you get better, you can modify your speed a little bit, throw it a little firmer, a little softer, without necessarily changing your timing, or with changing your timing slightly enough that you can keep good timing and good release while you vary your speed. The point here is what works for someone who throws at 17 and a half is not going to work for someone who throws at 14 and a half. So understanding your ball speed is an important piece of the puzzle. Now, as you get older, your ball speed decreases. Your rev rate may not decrease. So again, things that work for you as you grow older or as you evolve in the game, or maybe you start practicing 50 games a week instead of 0, things will change. And you need to be open to that change and understand that change, why it's happening, so that you can roll with it. Another thing that you want to understand is your rev rate. This is the bowling ball's initial rotation rate measured in revolutions per minute, or RPMs. While it varies from shot to shot, as most statistics do, it's again recommended that you do not intentionally alter your RPMs with your delivery. So you probably, if you're an average bowler, don't want to increase your rev rate to try to make the ball hook more, or decrease your rev rate to try to make it hook less. You want to make left to right moves, change balls other adjustments before you try to alter your rev rate. The reason I bring speed and rev rate up initially is because there's no right speed or rev rate, but the two are very, very closely related, and particularly the ratio to the two are closely related. So as a ball driller, I'm not going to have every bowler's exact ball speed on the drill sheet. I'm not going to have their exact rev rate. Maybe for some I do, but for every bowler, I'm not going to have their exact rev rate on my drill sheet. But I am going to have an idea marked on my drill sheet of whether that bowler is rev dominant or speed dominant or matched up. A rev dominant bowler is someone that throws it a little too slow for their rev rate or revs it a little too much for their ball speed. A speed dominant bowler is someone who throws it a little too hard for their rev rate or has too few RPMs for the speed they throw it. Doesn't mean they throw it hard. It just means that their rev rate in relation to their speed is lower. So that makes them a speed dominant player. And then matched up means that your speed and your rev rate are kind of matched up together. That might mean you have a lower rev rate and you throw it slower. You have a higher rev rate and you throw it harder, or you're around average in both, but you kind of match up. What that allows the ball driller to do is understand how you match up and then alter the strength of your bowling balls, the cover, etc., based on whether you match up, whether you're speed dominant, whether you're rev dominant. That's very important. If a pro shop operator starts asking you how hard do you throw the ball, he doesn't care. What he cares about, most likely, is are you rev dominant or speed dominant? He's going to ask you about speed and rev rate to get to there, but the realistic factor is that he wants to know whether you're speed or rev dominant. A couple more variables that are nice to haves, but not necessarily always. They're more of a tweak than anything else, are axis tilt and axis rotation. Axis tilt is the angle between the floor and a line drawn through your axis of rotation. So your positive axis point is the point that when you rotate a bowling ball looks to stay stationary on the cover as the ball goes down the lane. If you put a piece of tape on the positive axis point, when you release the ball, that tape won't be tumbling. It'll be a dot on the side of the ball as the ball rotates. Now, track flare will cause some of that stuff to alter, but at least initially off of your hand, that tape would be in a single spot. If you measure where that spot's at in relation to the floor, if it's right at the center of the ball, you have 0 axis tilt. If it's right at the top of the ball, you have 90 degrees of axis tilt, or 45 degrees of axis tilt, or 30, or 15, or 10. There are some ways to find that. Google them. I'm not going to explain all of that here. But if you have a cell phone video of you throwing a ball with a piece of tape on your axis point, you'll be able to find your axis tilt in about 30 seconds. It's not complicated. Axis rotation, just like the angle between the floor and your positive axis point to negative axis point line. Axis rotation is the angle between the ball path at release and the line drawn through the axis rotation when viewed from the top. So now we're looking at the angle that your axis is pointed back towards you. If it's pointed directly parallel to the foul line, you have 0 axis rotation. If your axis is pointed right at you when you release the bowling ball, you have 90 degrees of axis rotation, or 45, or 30, or 15, or 10. It's another variable. Axis rotation and axis tilt tell the ball driller a lot about how soon your ball is going to see the lane, along with whether you're rev dominant or speed dominant. Again, these individual values are not critically important. If they're off a few degrees, it's no big deal. What the ball driller is really looking for is, do you have a lot of tilt in relation to rotation? Do you have a lot of rotation in relation to tilt? Do you have a lot of speed in relation to rev rate? Do you have a lot of rev rate in relation to speed? They want to see if there's an imbalance in any of these things. There's no normal. There's lots of ways to throw a bowling ball. But understanding all of these variables allows the ball driller to be very precise in what they do for you to create a look on the lane that's precisely what you want in any given situation. Let's talk about positive axis point, because you've heard that term a lot in the first 1.5 of these podcasts. Bowling balls after delivery or at delivery have 2 axis points. One is the positive axis point and the other is the negative axis point. The PAP, or positive axis point, is the point on the exterior of the ball that the axis runs through closest to the bowler due to axis rotation. So if I release a ball and I have about 45 degrees of axis rotation, maybe I've got some tilt, this over here is my negative axis point because I'm a right-hander, the ball is going to go that way. The positive axis point is the one I can generally see. There are some bowlers that this is with unusual deliveries that have a different story here, but the positive axis point, if you put a piece of tape on it, you will be able to see when you release the ball, and you'll see it as it goes down the lane start to tumble with axis migration and track flare and all that sort of stuff. Again, topics we'll talk about in excruciating detail at some point in time down the road. Why is it so important? You can get the positive axis point off of a bowling ball. If I have you out on the lanes and you throw a ball, I can put some wax pencil over the initial track line, the first ring of oil in your track flare, and then I can take that back, use an armadillo, put it on a ball spinner, however it is the method that I find your PAP, and I can find how far your positive axis point is away from the center of your gripping holes. This is what's important, because if I lay out a ball for you to do a specific thing, I'm going to start with your positive axis point, always. Always. And then I'm going to reverse your coordinates off of that to find the center of your span, which is where I drill your gripping holes. It doesn't go the other way around. It can't go the other way around because it doesn't math well. So the positive axis point is best found by taking a wax pen, finding that initial ball track, and reversing it off of that. It's very, very convenient if you have a lane available and you have someone that knows what they're doing to go back out and verify this by taking something that doesn't flare a lot, like a spare ball, putting a piece of tape on your positive axis point, and then having you throw it like it's not a spare ball. Throw it like you're throwing it a full rack and see if that piece of tape goes down the lane stationary. If it does, then your PAP is dead on. If it doesn't, then moving it around 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch here and there is going to help them find your exact PAP. Finding your exact PAP is not critical unless you're doing some really crazy layouts. If you have it within 1/2 inch here or there, it's probably good enough for 99%. Okay, everybody, but don't tell anybody that I said that. Close is good enough. Close on your rev rate, that statistic is good enough. Close on your axis tilt, good enough. Close on your axis rotation is good enough, because every one of these variables varies. They are called variables. Vary slightly from shot to shot. So what your positive axis point is on this shot might be a little bit different if you change your hand position, or you throw it a little bit too hard, or you miss it at the bottom, etc. You see where I'm going with that. You want an approximation that's close enough for the purposes of laying out the ball. In my experience, that's about 1/2 inch or less, and then you're good to go. A ball driller must, at a minimum, understand your understand your spans and pitches. That's the size of the holes, the span, which is how far apart the holes are in relation to each other, and the pitches are the angles of the holes. They have to understand your PAP at a minimum, full stop. I'm going to say it 10 times so you understand it once. If your pro shop operator does not understand your PAP, find someone that does. And they have to have some basic understanding of the other elements. Axis tilt, axis rotation, speed, RPM, all those sorts of things. So please, when you walk into your pro shop operator, take a ball that fits you as best as you have, and take a cell phone video of you throwing a bowling ball. Takes them 20 seconds to watch that video. And they're going to basically understand within reason about what your speed is, about what your rev rate is, about what your axis tilt and rotation are, and then they'll find your positive access point and your spans and pitches off of the ball that you take in. Did I make that clear? Walk into your pro shop operator with a cell phone video of you throwing the ball, preferably from straight behind so that they can see the ball, as it traverses the lane surface. But walk in with that information. If you go to a pro shop and you get to the point of selecting a ball to purchase and they do not at least ask for your spans and pitches in your PAP or a ball that fits you, please leave and find a pro shop that does. I've been saying this since the early 90s. It wasn't popular back then. It's still not popular. But trust me, you will be doing yourself a great favor if you find a pro shop operator that wants to understand when they drill you a new ball that it's going to do something good for you, right? Don't waste your money on somebody that doesn't. A pro shop operator that doesn't know your PAP doesn't have any earthly clue how this ball that they're drilling is going to roll for you. Likewise, if you walk into a pro shop to get a new ball and you don't know your vital information or don't communicate it to the operator, you're likely wasting your time and money, and shame on you. Maybe they ask. If you don't know it and you make stuff up, it's not going to help you. Okay. One last mention before we go, because this Bowler's Bill of Rights, we're kind of just starting to get into it. The bowling proprietor. We haven't talked at all about that. Bowling centers are businesses. They're run by people who have bills and employees and problems and schedules, and they don't involve you other than maybe Thursday nights at 9 o'clock or at 6 o'clock. But in reality, that portion of time that you spend there is a very tiny subset of what goes on in that building. Complaining about the conditions changing a bit from day to day or week to week may make you feel powerful, but trust me, the proprietor isn't impressed. They can't control schedules, when open play happens, weather, school cancellations, other factors that directly affect your bowling environment on a weekly basis. They can't control it. They try. Trust me, they try. But they can't control everything. That center has rights just like the bowler and the pro shop operator, right? If you think of them as a partner rather than a provider and you a customer, your life will be a lot better. Your life will get better when you start to understand that they want to provide you a consistent, high-scoring, easy, zero breakdown, low drama, cold beer, happy league experience every week, even though reality sometimes interferes with it a bit. Maybe you have a snow day at school. I live in the Midwest. I'm in Ohio. We get crappy weather from time to time. I can tell you by looking at the league scores without even walking in the bowling center. I can look at the scores online and tell you whether school was canceled on a particular day because the league scores will be down 10 pins across the board. Not because the lanes were better or worse, because kids were bowling on them all day. Yeah, the weather sucked so much that the kids couldn't get to school, but you can damn sure bet you their parents got them to the bowling center if they like to bowl. But all those plastic balls going down the middle of the lane causes a bunch of carry down because they don't flare. More on that later. And that affects, even though we strip and re-oil, that affects what happens on the lane. It affects how much moisture there is in the carpet because they're tracking snow in. That affects how much moisture there is in the center, the humidity. Maybe the temperature is lower because it snowed a lot. All of those things are things that the bowling center proprietor has some level of control over, but not a lot. Life happens. So if you understand that the bowling environment changes from day to day, and you come to grips with that, and you make peace with that, you will be a much, much better bowler because you'll take what is given to you and adjust to it rather than your first inclination going, I stood on 25 last week with my Super Strike 300, and this week I can't stand on 25. Now I'm confused. Make your adjustments. Find out what they are. It's probably only a board or three different than it was last week. Maybe it's a ball up or a ball down. Ooh, big deal. Make the adjustments. Shut your mouth. Drink your beer. Have a great league night. And don't bitch to the proprietor because they probably want the same thing that you want, which is a consistent bowling experience. And that's their right, just like the pro shop operator has a right to know some things about you as a bowler, and you have a right to know a few things about the center and the pro shop operator. So anyway, I'm going to cut this one a little bit short today. That is your bowling bill of rights and how you should interact with your pro shop operator and your bowling center proprietor. Hopefully this makes your life a little bit better. Again, my name is Tom Seiler. Life, the Universe, and Bowling is the podcast, and we'll talk to you all soon again. Hope you have a great day.